Welcome to the channel.
Alright, so I never thought I'd be the guy posting here, but life has a way of completely blindsiding you. My name's Jake Van Dam, 34, and for most of my life I thought I had it all figured out. Great job, beautiful wife, two amazing kids, and a family business that was practically in my DNA. But man, was I blind. Let me set the stage. I come from a well-respected aeronautical family. My grandfather, Rufus Sr., built our company from the ground up, and it was always understood that my older brother, Rufus Jr., and I would eventually take over. Rufus Jr., though, he's always been the golden boy. Big, loud, full of himself. He had that natural charisma that made people either love him or hate him, and I'm telling you, that guy could sell ice to a damn Eskimo. Me. I was the quiet one, the problem solver, the one who actually kept things running. And then there's my wife, Brooke. We've been married for almost 10 years. She was beautiful, charming, and always seemed like the perfect wife. At least that's what I thought. Looking back now, there were signs. Little things that didn't add up. The way she'd glance at her phone and quickly put it away when I walked into the room. The sudden girls' trips that started happening more often. The coldness that crept into our marriage, disguised as stress or exhaustion. But I didn't question it. I was too busy working my ass off, providing for our family, thinking we were a team. The first crack appeared at a family gathering. It was one of those big, loud get-togethers at my grandfather's estate. The kind where everyone pretends they're happier than they really are. My grandfather was talking to me about the next steps for the company when suddenly, Brooke made a snide comment about me, spending more time at work than at home. The way she said it, it wasn't playful. It was sharp, deliberate. Rufus Jr. chuckled. And that's when I saw it. The look. It was so brief, but I caught it. The way they exchanged glances, like there was some inside joke I wasn't part of. Something about it made my stomach turn. But again, I pushed it down. Maybe I was imagining things. Later that night, as I was helping my grandfather into his study, he sighed and said, "Jake, you need to start paying closer attention to what's happening around you." I asked him what he meant, but he just shook his head. "You're smart. You'll figure it out." I didn't sleep much that night. The real gut punch came a few days later. A buddy of mine, let's call him Mark, pulled me aside after work. He looked uncomfortable, like he didn't want to say what he was about to say. "Jake," he started, "I don't know how to tell you this, but I think something's going on with Brooke." I laughed it off. "Come on, Mark. What are you talking about?" "I saw her. At a hotel. With Rufus Jr." My heart stopped. Everything inside me went cold. "Are you sure?" "I wish I wasn't." I don't even remember driving home that night. My hands were gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. When I walked in, Brooke was in the kitchen, acting like everything was normal, asking me about my day. And that's when I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. If she was lying to my face, I needed proof. Solid, undeniable proof. Because if this was true, if she was really doing this to me with my own brother, I wasn't just going to walk away. I was going to make them pay. That night, I barely spoke to Brooke. I could feel my heart hammering in my chest, but I forced myself to act normal. I needed to be smart about this. If I confronted her too soon, she'd just spin some lie, play the victim, maybe even gaslight me into thinking I was crazy. No, I needed real proof. So, I started watching. The first thing I noticed was how often she was on her phone. Brooke had always been attached to it, but now, she never let it out of her sight. Even when she went to the bathroom, she took it with her. At night, when she used to just plug it in on the nightstand, she'd started sleeping with it under her pillow. That's when I knew, whatever she was hiding, it was on that phone. The next day I played dumb. I kissed her goodbye like usual and went to work, but instead of diving into my usual tasks, I did some digging. I had a tech guy at the office, let's call him Kevin, who owed me a favor. "Hey Kev," I said casually, leaning against his desk. "You ever deal with phone tracking software?" He raised an eyebrow. "For work? Or personal reasons?" I gave him a look. "Let's just say I need to know if someone's being honest with me." Kevin nodded slowly. "You're gonna want something discreet." If you can get access to her phone for even 5 minutes, I can set something up. That was the tricky part. Brooke guarded that thing like a damn vault. But luck was on my side. That evening, as we sat on the couch pretending to watch TV, Brooke got up and went to the bathroom. And for the first time in weeks, she left her phone sitting on the armrest. My heart pounded. I had seconds. I grabbed it and with shaking hands unlocked it. Brooke wasn't dumb, she had a passcode. But I'd seen her enter it enough times. I tried the one I suspected. Wrong. Damn it. I tried another, our anniversary date. Wrong again. I was about to put it back when something clicked in my head. Brooke was predictable. Vain even. She always used her kids' birth dates for everything. I quickly entered my daughter's birthday. Unlocked. I swiped through her apps, my fingers moving fast. Messages, nothing obvious. WhatsApp, locked with Face ID. Same with her emails. But then I opened her Notes app. And there it was. A list, titled Packing List Miami. Miami. We hadn't planned any trips. But as I scanned the list, my blood ran cold. Black dress. Red heels. Lingerie. Gift for R. Gift for R. I stared at the letter. My breathing felt too loud. R as in Rufus Jr.? That was all I needed. I heard the toilet flush. I barely had time to lock her phone and place it back before she walked into the room, completely unaware. She smiled at me like nothing was wrong. Like she hadn't just written down a checklist for a secret getaway with my brother. I smiled back. She had no idea what was coming. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, all I could see was that note. Gift for R. My own damn brother. The next morning I played it cool. Kissed Brooke on the cheek, told her I'd be working late, then headed out. But instead of going straight to the office, I made a detour to my grandfather's house. Now, let me tell you something about Rufus Sr., the man built our family business from the ground up. He's old school, no nonsense, and respects loyalty above all else. He doesn't tolerate betrayal, not in business, not in family. And if I was right about what was happening, then both Brooke and Rufus Jr. were about to get a very rude awakening. When I walked into his study, he was sitting behind his massive oak desk, sipping his black coffee like he always did in the mornings. "Jake," he said, setting his cup down. "You look like hell." "Feels about right," I muttered. I sat down across from him, my hands clenched into fists. "I need to ask you something." He raised an eyebrow, waiting. "You ever hear anything about Brooke and Rufus Jr.?" There was a long pause. Too long. My grandfather leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing. "Why do you ask?" My stomach dropped. That was all the answer I needed. "You knew." My voice came out hollow. "I suspected," he corrected. "I wasn't sure. But I had a feeling something wasn't right." "Jesus Christ. Why the hell didn't you tell me?" "Because I needed proof," he said, his voice sharp. "Just like you do." I ran a hand through my hair, trying to stay calm. "Well, now I have it. She's planning a trip. Miami. And judging by what I found on her phone, she's going with Rufus Jr." My grandfather sighed. "That woman always had a snake-like quality to her. And your brother? That boy has no discipline, no respect." He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his desk. "So what are you gonna do about it?" I took a deep breath. "I want them to think they're getting away with it. Let them go on their little trip. But when they come back..." I clenched my jaw. "I want them to lose everything." A slow, approving nod. "Now that," my grandfather said, "sounds like a Van Damme move." I had his blessing. Now I just needed a plan. That's when I got an idea, one that would make sure Brooke and Rufus Jr. paid the price for betraying me. And I wasn't just going to expose them. I was going to destroy them. After leaving my grandfather's house, I knew what I had to do. Brooke and Rufus Jr. thought they were so damn clever, sneaking around behind my back. Fine. Let them think they were getting away with it. For now. First, I needed more proof. The kind that would leave no room for excuses when I brought the hammer down. I already had the packing list, but that wasn't enough. I needed to catch them in the act. I called Kevin, my tech guy from work. "Kev," I said, lowering my voice even though I was in my car, "how hard would it be to track a phone without someone knowing?" There was a pause. "Are you asking for legal or theoretical reasons?" "Let's call it theoretical." Kevin chuckled. "If you can get access to their iCloud, it's easy. You just log in and boom, you can see their location in real time." Bingo. That night, I waited until Brooke fell asleep. Then, with my heart pounding, I carefully slid her phone out from under her pillow. She had her usual passcode, our daughter's birthday, so I got in easily. I went straight to her iCloud settings and noted down her login info. Then, I set up her Find My iPhone on my laptop. Now, wherever she went, I'd know. I put the phone back and lay down next to her, staring at the ceiling. She had no idea she was already caught. The next day, I told her I'd be going on a work trip, just a little white lie to give her some space to execute her plan. I needed her to fully commit to her betrayal so I could destroy every excuse she might throw at me later. And sure enough, the moment I left the house, I checked my laptop. She wasn't at work. She was at a hotel. And guess whose location was at the exact same place? Rufus Jr. I gripped the edge of my desk so hard my knuckles turned white. That was it. That was all I needed. But I wasn't just going to confront them. Oh no. I wanted everyone to see exactly what kind of people they were. And I knew just the way to do it. I had the proof. Now, I just needed the perfect way to expose them. Lucky for me, the annual Van Dam Family Business Gala was right around the corner. It was a massive event. Hundreds of people, business partners, reporters, investors, family. Everyone who mattered would be there. And Brooke and Rufus Jr. were planning to show up like nothing was wrong. Perfect. I called up my grandfather. "They're sneaking off to hotels now," I told him. There was a long pause. Then, in a quiet, dangerous voice, he said, "Good. That means they're comfortable. That means they won't see it coming." Damn right they wouldn't. The setup. I needed undeniable proof, pictures, timestamps, receipts. I wasn't about to stand outside a damn hotel like a private detective, but I did know someone who could help. Gemma Evans. Now this is where things get interesting. Gemma was my ex. The same woman Brooke had accused me of cheating with. The lie Brooke had used to turn my own kids against me. The woman I hadn't even seen in years. But here's the thing, Gemma? She wasn't just any ex. She was a journalist. A damn good one. I reached out. "Hey Gemma. It's Jake." There was a pause. Then a sharp, knowing laugh. Well, if it isn't the man I supposedly had an affair with." "Yeah, about that," I said, exhaling. "I need a favor." I told her everything: Brooke, Rufus Jr., the Miami trip, the hotels, the betrayal. She listened in silence. Then she said, "So you want me to expose them?" "I want you to do what you do best. Dig up the truth. And I want everyone to see it." Another pause. Then she said, "Jake, you have no idea how much I've been waiting for this." Oh, I had a damn good idea. The execution. Gemma got to work. Within 2 days she had everything. Photos of Brooke and Rufus Jr. sneaking into the hotel, timestamps, credit card transactions, even a blurry shot of them kissing in the parking lot. It was golden. I arranged for all of it to be accidentally leaked at the gala. The plan? Simple. Brooke and Rufus Jr. would show up, thinking they'd pulled off the perfect betrayal. The event would be packed, family, friends, the press. Right in the middle of my speech, Gemma would release the proof. A live slideshow. Big screen. Full exposure. A public humiliation. The kind you don't come back from. And let me tell you, I was counting the hours. The night of the Van Dam Family Business Gala arrived. I stood in front of the mirror adjusting my tie, feeling the kind of calm that only comes before a storm. Tonight, everything changed. Brooke was in the bedroom, slipping into her expensive gown, completely unaware that she was about to walk into her own funeral, socially, financially, and emotionally. "You look beautiful," I told her. And it wasn't a lie. She did. But all I saw was the woman who betrayed me. She smiled, oblivious. "You ready for tonight?" "Oh yeah," I said, forcing a grin. "I've been looking forward to this all week." Brooke had no idea. The gala begins. The ballroom was packed. The who's who of the aeronautical industry, journalists, family, investors, everyone who mattered. The air was thick with expensive cologne, business talk, and champagne. I spotted my brother, Rufus Jr., across the room, laughing it up, shaking hands, acting like the future of the company belonged to him. Not after tonight. Brooke stuck close to me, probably playing the role of the perfect wife to secure her position before she pulled whatever stunt she had planned. She wasn't just cheating, she was trying to position herself and Rufus Jr. to take over the company. They wanted to push me out. Too bad for them, I wasn't going anywhere. The speech. Midway through the night I took the stage. My grandfather, Rufus Sr., sat at the head table, watching with an unreadable expression. He knew what was coming. I tapped the microphone. The crowd quieted. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight. This company has always been built on trust, integrity, and loyalty." I paused, letting those words sink in. Then I smiled. "And tonight I'd like to honor two people who truly embody those values." Brooke sat up straighter, her face lighting up. Rufus Jr. smirked. "Oh, they really thought I was about to praise them." I nodded toward the back of the room. Right on cue, Gemma hit the switch. The massive projector screen behind me lit up. At first it was just an image of a hotel. Then one by one the pictures started rolling in. Brooke and Rufus Jr. sneaking into the hotel. A blurry shot of them kissing in the parking lot. Credit card receipts. Texts from Brooke to Rufus Jr., talking about their Miami escape. Gasps filled the room. Murmurs turned into whispers. Whispers turned into full-blown chaos. Brooke's face drained of color. Rufus Jr. stood up so fast his chair scraped against the marble floor. "What the hell is this?" he barked. I took a slow sip of my champagne. "Proof," I said calmly, "of what happens when you betray your own blood." Brooke turned to me, eyes wide. "Jake, this isn't what it looks like." "Oh, it's exactly what it looks like." I turned to the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the unexpected presentation, but I thought it was only fair for everyone to know exactly who we're dealing with." My grandfather stood up. His voice was cold, final. "Rufus Jr.," he said, shaking his head, "you are done." That was it. That was the moment he lost everything. Brooke? She was too stunned to speak. And me? I had never felt more alive. The room was dead silent for a solid 5 seconds. Then chaos. People started murmuring, some outright gasping, others pulling out their phones to take pictures of the screen before Gemma finally cut the feed. Reporters, who had come expecting some dull corporate speech, suddenly had the story of the year handed to them on a silver platter. Brooke turned to me, her face pale as a ghost. "Jake, please. Let's talk about this privately." I gave her a slow, amused smile. "Oh, now you want privacy? That's funny. Because last I checked, you had no problem parading around a damn hotel with my brother." She grabbed my arm, her grip desperate. "It's not what you think. I was just—" "Don't," I cut her off. "Whatever lie you're about to come up with. Just don't. You're embarrassing yourself. Rufus Jr. loses it." Meanwhile, Rufus Jr. was fuming. His face was red, his jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. "This is a damn setup," he barked, pointing a shaking finger at me. "You did this. You're trying to ruin me." I chuckled. "You did that all by yourself, big bro." My grandfather, Rufus Sr., stepped forward, his cane tapping against the marble floor. Everyone went quiet. He looked at Rufus Jr. for a long moment. Then he sighed, shaking his head. "I always knew you were reckless," he said, his voice low, heavy. "But betraying your own family—" His eyes darkened. "That I can't forgive." Rufus Jr.'s nostrils flared. Come on, Dad. My grandfather slammed his cane against the floor. I am not your father. And after tonight, you are no longer my grandson. Boom. That was it. That was the moment Rufus Jr. lost everything. He opened his mouth to argue, but my grandfather simply raised a hand, silencing him. Effective immediately, you are being removed from the company, my grandfather announced. Your shares will be transferred. Your name will be erased from every future deal. You are nothing to this family now. I had never seen Rufus Jr. look so small. His whole life he had gotten by on his charm, his big personality, his ability to manipulate people. But tonight, none of that could save him. He turned to Brooke like she was going to back him up. But Brooke? She wasn't looking at him. She was looking at me. Brooke's desperate move. The second she saw that Rufus Jr. was a sinking ship, she dropped him like dead weight. She grabbed my arm again. Jake, listen. We can fix this. I actually laughed. Fix this. I gestured to the massive room filled with people staring at her like she was a train wreck. Brooke, you just got exposed in 4K in front of half the city. What exactly do you think we're fixing? She shook her head quickly. It was a mistake. A terrible mistake. I wasn't thinking straight. I was confused. I pulled my arm away. Confused? You booked a hotel. Packed lingerie. Planned a trip to Miami. That's not confusion. That's a full-time job. She started crying. Jake, please. I love you. I tilted my head. You love me. Yes, she sobbed. I swear I do. I stepped in close, just enough for her to hear me over the noise of the crowd. Then you should have thought about that before you got in bed with my brother. Her face crumbled. And then I walked away. Because Brooke was dead to me. I walked straight out of that ballroom, ignoring the chaos behind me. Brooke was crying, Rufus Jr. was yelling, the press was already swarming, but I didn't care. I had done what I came to do. As soon as I stepped outside, I felt the cold night air hit my face. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, I could finally breathe. And then, I heard footsteps behind me. Jake. I turned. Gemma. She had this unreadable look on her face, arms crossed, one eyebrow slightly raised. Well, she said, tilting her head. That was dramatic. I let out a breathless laugh. Yeah. She studied me for a second. You okay? I wanted to say yes. That I was fine. That I felt nothing but victory. But the truth? There was this weird hollow feeling in my chest. I had won. I had exposed them. Destroyed them. Taken back my life. But at the same time, I had lost everything too. Gemma must have seen something in my face because she sighed and said, Come on. Let's get you a drink. For the first time all night, I let someone else take the lead. Inside the wreckage. Back inside, things had exploded. Reporters were already writing their stories. Guests were either whispering in corners or straight up recording the fallout. Brooke was still in the middle of the room, her makeup a mess, gripping the edge of the table like she was trying to keep herself from collapsing. Rufus Jr.? He was nowhere to be seen. Probably left the second he realized he had lost. Good. I barely glanced at Brooke as I walked past. She didn't even try to stop me this time. Maybe she finally understood that it was over. One last goodbye. Gemma and I made our way to the bar. She ordered whiskey for both of us, sliding a glass my way. To revenge, she said, raising hers. I smirked. To justice. We clinked glasses and I took a long sip. Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw Brooke approaching. Of course. She looked shattered, her hair was a mess, her eyes red, her whole body shaking. But she still had that desperate determination in her expression. I sighed and turned to Gemma. Give me a minute. Gemma hesitated but eventually nodded, stepping away. Brooke took a deep breath. Jake, please. I know I messed up, but I can't lose you. I can't lose our family. I stared at her. You lost me the moment you made that first choice. Tears spilled down her face. It didn't mean anything. I shook my head. Don't insult me with that. Her lower lip trembled. I don't know why I did it. I was stupid. I was selfish. But I love you. I set my drink down. You loved what I gave you. The house, the security, the life. But me. If you really loved me, Brooke, you never would have done this. She tried to grab my hands, but I pulled back. And then I hit her with the final blow. You can have the house. But I'm taking the kids. Her face twisted. Jake. They deserve better than a mother who lies and schemes. I took a step closer, my voice dropping. And trust me, Brooke, I will make sure they know exactly who you are. She let out a sob, full body shaking. But I was done. I turned away, grabbed my drink and walked toward my future. Brooke collapsed into a chair, sobbing. The woman who had spent months lying to my face, sneaking around with my own brother, was finally feeling what I had felt all along. Too little, too late. I didn't stay to watch. Didn't care anymore. I left her sitting there, surrounded by people who weren't offering a shred of sympathy. No one wanted to comfort a woman who had just been exposed in 4K. I stepped outside again, needing air, and found Gemma waiting for me near the valet. You sure you're okay? She asked, arms crossed, her sharp eyes studying me. I don't know, I admitted. I thought I'd feel happier. She nodded like she understood. Revenge is messy. We stood in silence for a moment. Then she said, You meant it, didn't you? About taking the kids. I nodded. Damn right I did. Brooke had weaponized them against me before, turning them against me with her fake affair story. Now, it was time to flip the script. I wasn't going to let my children grow up thinking their father was the bad guy. Brooke's last card. I was halfway home when my phone buzzed. Brooke. I let it ring. Then she sent a text. Jake, please. Let's talk. Don't do this. Don't take the kids from me. I ignored it. Then another. I'll do anything. Just tell me what you want. Anything. She was desperate now. She knew she had nothing left. But I wasn't in the mood for games. I replied with one sentence. I want a divorce. And I want full custody. I stared at the screen, waiting. 3 dots appeared, then stopped. She knew she had no leverage. No excuses. Nothing left to manipulate. She had already lost. Moving forward. The next morning I met with my lawyer. It was war. Brooke fought, of course. Cried in court. Tried to play the victim. But the evidence was overwhelming. The hotel receipts, the messages, the pictures, all of it painted a very clear picture of what kind of mother she was. The judge ruled in my favor. Full custody. Brooke could see the kids, but on my terms. And as for Rufus Jr., after being cut off financially, he disappeared. Last I heard, he was living in some tiny apartment, trying to hustle up a new job. He went from being next in line for the family empire, to being nothing. Karma's a beautiful thing. The final goodbye. A few months later, Brooke and I finalized the divorce. She met me outside the courthouse, looking worn down, a shadow of the woman she used to be. I know you hate me, she said quietly. And I deserve it. I didn't say anything. But I did love you, Jake. Maybe not the way I should have, but I did. I let out a slow breath. I don't hate you, Brooke. Hope flickered in her eyes. Then I delivered the last blow. I just don't care about you anymore. She flinched like I had slapped her. Then, without another word, I walked away. And for the first time in a long time, I was finally free. The divorce was final. Brooke was out of my life and I had full custody of the kids. She tried to fight for more, but the evidence was stacked too high against her. She lost. As for Rufus Jr., he was radio silent. No apologies, no explanations, just gone. Fine by me. One night, I was tucking my daughter into bed when she looked up at me. Dad. Yeah, sweetheart. Mom lied about you, didn't she? I froze for a second. Then I nodded. Yeah, I said softly. She did. She was quiet for a moment, then hugged me tight. I'm glad you're here. That was it. That was everything. A few weeks later, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. We need to talk. It took me a second to realize who it was. Rufus Jr. I stared at the message, debating whether to respond. Then another text came through. I messed up. But you went too far, Jake. I laughed. Too far. This guy tried to steal my wife, my family, my place in the company, and now he wanted sympathy? I blocked the number. Rufus Jr. had already taken enough from me. He wasn't getting another second of my time. One evening, I was finishing up work when my phone buzzed. Brooke. I almost ignored it, but something told me to pick up. Her voice was shaky. Jake, can we talk? About what? I said flatly. She hesitated. I miss my family. I miss you. I sighed. Brooke, don't do this. I know I messed up, but can't we try again? I closed my eyes. She still didn't get it. We're done, I said. We've been done. She started crying, whispering, I love you. I didn't say it back. I just hung up. A month passed. No more calls from Brooke. No more texts from Rufus Jr. Then, out of nowhere, Gemma reached out. Hey, Jake. Want to grab a coffee? I hesitated. We hadn't talked much since the gala. But she had been there for me when everything fell apart. So I texted back. Yeah. Let's do it. I didn't know what to expect. Closure? A fresh start? All I knew was, for the first time in a long time, I actually felt curious about what came next. Meeting Gemma felt easy. No drama. No tension. Just two people catching up. She sipped her coffee, eyeing me. You look lighter. I smirked. Divorce will do that. She laughed. So what now? Got any plans? I shrugged. Figuring things out. Focusing on the kids. She nodded, then hesitated. And, maybe leaving room for something new? I met her gaze. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel bitter. I didn't feel broken. I just felt ready. Maybe, I said. Maybe I am. Weeks passed. No more drama, no more lies, just peace. Gemma and I kept talking. Nothing rushed, nothing forced. Just something real. One night, after putting the kids to bed, I got a text from her. Dinner tomorrow? No pressure. I stared at the message, then smiled. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't looking back. I was looking forward. Yeah. I'd like that. And just like that, I finally moved on.
Bye.